Hello, welcome to Citizens Forum. I'd like to start by thanking our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes this program happen every week. We're going to be talking about the issue of terrorism to start the show. And I've just got two questions. First of all, regarding everything that's happened in Paris and the creation of this huge explosion of fear. First question is, would they, meaning NATO and the United States, carry out a terrorist bombing in Paris? And for me, the answer to that is yes, they would. Did they do it? I have no idea. Until there's a full investigation, I have no idea what happened. But would they do it? Yes, because they've done it before. And secondly, would our media lie to us about everything that's going on? And I have to say again, yes, they would lie to us because, in my opinion, they always lie to us about important issues. So we're not getting really a full and honest picture of what's happening in the world. But today with Walter and Medhi, we're going to talk about all these things from maybe a different perspective. So Medhi, welcome. And you wanted to talk or start by talking about the role of the West in terror.
Yes, I wanted to talk about what's happening in Syria and why ISIS is there. Who is ISIS and where is it coming from? Just in last August, the WikiLeaks files were published in a book by Julian Assange. And in one of those files, there is a cable from 2006 from Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy in Damascus, Mr. William Roebuck, December 13, 2006. And in this cable, diplomatic cable that he's sending to Washington, he wrote, "We believe Bashar al-Assad weakness are in how he choose to react to looming issues, both perceived and real, such as the conflict between economic reform steps, however limited, and entrenched corrupt forces, the Kurdish question, and the potential threat to the regime from increasing presence of transiting Islamic extremism." So what they are saying in this cable, they are saying the only way we can use the weaknesses of Assad is in how he reacts to these potential destabilizing issues. And one of them is the conflict between economic reform that Assad put in and the entrenched corrupt forces that has been in Syria. So Assad as a reformer is the enemy of United States, and they want to use the conflict between his reform and the corrupt entrenched forces as a way to destabilize Assad. Another way is using the Kurdish population, and the third one, the transitory Islamist extremists that are going to Syria. And then he said, this cable summarizes our assessment of this vulnerability and suggests that there may be action, statement, and the signals that the U.S. government can send that will improve the likelihood of such opportunities arises. So he said United States should use and come with a plan to use these vulnerabilities to destabilize Syria. This is, remember, this is right after the job they have done to the people of Iraq, you know. So they were planning in 2006 to start destabilizing Syria. And what they did, they sent these extremists in, and the extremists start shooting and using snipers to shoot at the police and the security forces from the populated area. So using the population as a human shield for their destabilization program. We have seen this exactly the same thing in Ukraine. So United States was really behind what's happening, the devastation of Syria. They started it. They look for the vulnerability. And Assange said that the plan was to use a number of different factors to create paranoia within the Syrian government, to push it to overreact, to make make it fear there is a coup. And the key statement is this: WikiLeaks cable revealed that these plans came from Israeli government and show that United States government intended to work with Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt to encourage breakdown of Assad regime as a way of also weakening Iran and Hezbollah. So what's happening in Syria in the name of Syrian revolution is just nothing but a CIA attempt to destabilize and destabilize Syria and the regime change. So we never heard about that. These WikiLeaks files were published in August, and the corporate media and CBC never concentrate on them because they are real evidence. They are diplomatic cables from United States government. Another issue is the issue of Saudi Arabia. We saw in that cable that it mentioned the Saudi Arabia. The role of Saudi Arabia. General Martin Dempsey in September 2014 in a congressional hearing, he said that our allies are funding ISIS. And with allies, he didn't mention the name, but the allies are Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Turkey, you know. And Vice President Joe Biden, in October of 2014, in a speech at Yale University, he said the same thing, that our allies are funding ISIS. So on one hand, the allies are funding and arming the ISIS. On the other hand, United States and West using that as an excuse to bomb the hell out of people of Syria and change the Assad regime. There was just yesterday, June 23rd, 2015, actually, that came out that there was a group of media personality from Australia was being touring Israel. And one of them, Sherry Markson, of Australians, which is a big newspaper in Australia, she had some difficulty with the security people because they took them to this hospital, Zevi Hospital in northern Israel, and they were seeing these fighters, these extremist fighters that fighting in Syria, they are brought to, after they are wounded, they brought to Israel to patch them up, to send them back.
So you're saying that ISIS fighters were being treated in Israeli hospitals? In
Israeli hospitals. And that was here in the last, I read, Israel has treated 1,300 Syrians who have been injured in the war, 530 of them in the Zev hospital. Why Israel? You know, helping the rebels and the ISIS and the Islamists. There was another article that showed that how Ukrainian weapon ending to the hands of ISIS. They are sending arms from Ukraine through Black Sea, through Turkey, with the facilitation of Turkey, to the ISIS and the so-called Islamists.
When you say they, I mean, I'm assuming you mean the United States.
United States, and these are the United States allies. All of these countries are their allies. And another thing that came out in terms of Saudi Arabia, it was said that when they cut the head of the people, you know, I mean, that type of brutality cannot come from a human being that is aware. There were a speculation that these fighters are being drugged. We saw about 2 weeks ago, on October 27, 2015, there was an article that a Saudi prince was busted with 2 tons of drugs, you know, cocaine and drugs, amphetamines, which called Captagon. These are the drugs that used, this is the subtitle of the article. A Saudi prince has been arrested after 2 tons of drugs, popular with ISIS fighters and Syrian rebels, were found on the private jet. This article is by UK Express, the paper Express. So we see that they are not only arming, they are paying, and they are providing all sorts of things for this war of devastation. So when people talk about refugees, where is it coming from? These refugees are coming from creation of this destabilization and this war by sending fighters from Chechnya, from United States, from Canada, from all over Europe, you know, deceiving these kids to go to fight under the influence of drugs.
So who are you saying is behind all of this?
It cannot be anybody but United States because their cable.
And it's the lunatics who run the United States. This has nothing to do with the people of the United States.
No.
You know, just as a side note is that, you know, there was the deal between General Dynamics of Canada and Saudi Arabia to supply $15 billion worth of armored vehicles and weapons to Saudi Arabia. And the thing is that they are, you know, an ally of Canada, according to Stephen Harper. We'll have to see what Trudeau has to say about it. And the thing is that the other observation I made was, you know, previously, you know, the horrific acts of beheading people were often being shown by the government of whatever you call the ruling regime in Saudi Arabia. Yes. And that's a standard practice for them, was to behead political prisoners, or what if they term to be criminals or whatever, and they are our allies. So that's the shocking thing.
Let me read to you from an article, 30th July 2004, by Robert Fife, National Post. Saudi Arabia funds the global propagation of Wahhabism, a brand of Islam that in some instances support militancy by encouraging divisiveness and violent acts against Muslim and non-Muslim. The report from Council on Foreign Relations say that, you know. Yeah. So as early as 2004 they knew. And they said this massive spending is helping to create next generation of terrorists and therefore constitute a paramount strategic threat to United States. And then it talked about the Saudi Arabia funding the mosque in Toronto, in Calgary and other cities, and they never stopped them. Why? When they own their own report by foreign relation, Council on Foreign Relations, which is a very important body.
Okay, so here we are. An attack has just happened in Paris and many other places around the world, but the one in Paris has certainly caught the attention of Canada's corporate media. We're being fed a never-ending now specter of fear and lies and misinformation. The truth, I think what you're saying is the truth, that the United States and its allies are funding ISIS. Now, if that cannot ever be said by our media at the same time as they're pushing us into war to fight ISIS, which they've created, then something very, very weird is going on. And I mean, we are increasingly they don't seem like they're willing to stop without destroying everything. And I mean the people who run North America.
Let me mention another thing. If you remember, we talked about those Toyotas, shining Toyotas that ISIS were driving in Syria and going to Iraq with. And we always ask, where are they coming from? The Terror Financing Unit of Treasury Department of United States asking Toyota where did the ISIS got those trucks. But then it came out that in an article in April of this was, they are asking this year in September and August from the Treasury Department of United States asking Toyota, tell us where did they got those? And Toyota said, we don't know. So, in an article in website of Public Radio International in April of 2014, we read, the United States Department, the U.S. State Department resumed sending non-lethal aid to Syrian rebels. The delivery list includes 43 Toyota trucks. And then there was an article in Independent of London on August 12, 2013, very clearly show that the British government were sending trucks and SUVs to the rebels, and also the French government.
Now, to the rebels.
Islamists. Here I read you one paragraph. The British government is considering sending weapons to moderate rebel fighters, arguing that a failure to do so would not only further empower President Assad, but also weaken future potential Western allies. The bulk of the arms that get into opposition area in Syria go to the Islamist rebel, courtesy of wealthy benefactor in Gulf, especially Qatar. And then in the next paragraph, line up all the items that the British government sent, and these are some of them. Composing 5 4x4 vehicles with ballistic protection, 4 trucks, 3 25 tons, 1 20 tons, 6 4x4 SUVs, 5 non-armored pickup truck, and so on and so forth. So the mystery of those shining Toyota came out. There was I like to mention this issue too. There was a documentary made on drones that United States, the drone program that the United States is using. The pilots are sitting in the desert of Nevada shooting people in Afghanistan, in Yemen, and in other places. The documentary called The Drones, and is done by Tonhei Hassan Shai. And it was on CBC The Current. It was really devastating here, because here is Michael Haas, one of the pilots of the drone, was saying. Haas detailed the callous term people in the program used to describe children, and they use the word fun-size terrorist for children. When they kill terrorists, they call them fun-size.
So they actually weren't trying to avoid killing children.
And also calling the children tits, terrorists in training, and said that one of their mottos was that you have to cut the grass before it grows too tall. So this is the way they were treating children. The attitude, he said, was anything you can do to remove their humanity. And let me show you some of those terrorists in training. Here is the picture of these 3 kids. His mother and father were blown to pieces, his 2 other siblings killed, and this is the 3 terrorists in training that remain from that family. This is what we are doing to the people of Middle East in the name of fighting terrorism that we created. Here is another picture of a girl. I took this from the CBC site, so it's not is official, is legitimate. Here is this girl saying that I no longer like the blue sky. Why? Because the drones attack people when there is clear sky. And here is a kid, a 13, 12-year-old kid. This is what we are doing. Why we don't hear this type of things?
How many attacks do you think, say in the last 5 years, the United States have had in that region?
It's many. I just quote you one of the information. In one campaign in Afghanistan, U.S. Special Operation airstrikes between January 2012 and February 2013, targeting 35 people, killed more than 200. Targeting 35 people, but killed more than 200. And those are the kids and their parents and the people, innocent people that we are killing in the name of our civility. So who is creating? And these drone operators were saying that we are, by our action, creating the next generation of terrorists. When you kill children...
So how do we stop the lunatics who run the West?
What we have to do, we have to challenge the media. Why none of these issues are being discussed extensively? We see in CFAX, how many times in last few weeks I heard about marijuana, legalization of marijuana, every day. we are hearing, 2-3 sessions. How many times about this issue? How many people? Do you smoke marijuana? I don't. Do you?
Perhaps I did. At one
Absolutely not, ever.
No, I don't think there are that many people are interested.
Believe me, a lot of people are interested in that. But CFAX is doing the exact opposite of what we're talking about. They tout the official story as if there was no question. In fact, one of them said, I heard this said on CFAX by a host. I can't find it, but it was basically, sooner or later we're going to have to go over there. And he was talking about sending basically Canadian soldiers into the Middle East to fight ISIS, which
is their creation.
Which is their creation. The media is our greatest enemy.
Let me, when the Soviet, the Russia got involved in September 31st this year. So
1 minute left.
in 1.5 months, they wipe out almost 60% of the ISIS. And after the Paris attack, what was David Cameron asking Mr. Putin to do? Is stop bombing ISIS. Stop the bombing. The Saudi Arabian said to Putin, Russia is very dangerous now. Saudi Arabia blast Putin bet to wipe out evil ISIS. So they are all their allies of United States are pressuring Putin to stop bombing ISIS.
Yeah, and today they shot down a Russian bomber, and somebody also blew up a Russian airplane. Walter, thank you very much. Medhi, thank you very much. And everybody, I mean, the West is killing people by the hundreds of thousands in the Middle East, and now they're bringing the terror into Europe. And when I say they, I mean the same people who are doing it in the Middle East. We have to focus on the real enemy, which I think is the people who run the United States, the corporations, the power structure, and our own Canadian media, which is just pushing, not telling us the truth and pushing fear, pushing anger, and misinformation. Thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.